At 5:12 in the afternoon, a TOS-1A Solntsepyok, a Russian thermobaric launcher on a tank hull, 24 tubes in one steel box, rolled onto the Huliaipole axis and fired a single 220mm rocket into a Ukrainian trench 3 kilometers away. A thermobaric warhead does not simply explode. It sprays fuel across the air and lights it, and for one long second, the trench disappeared under a wall of fire. Then, the launcher began to back away, its work done. What its crew could not know was that a Phoenix drone team had been watching that stretch of front for hours, and the flash of its own shot had just marked it for them. The launcher was worth more than $10 million. The drones already turning toward it cost a few hundred each. It had fired one rocket, and that was the last mistake it made. A minute earlier, that launcher had been a problem with no clean answer. A TOS-1A is a short-range weapon by design. Its rockets reach only about 6 kilometers, which means that to burn a trench, it has to come to the trench. That one number is the whole story. To do its job, the most feared fire support vehicle in the Russian inventory has to drive inside the range of the cheapest weapon on the front. The launcher itself is built to survive that trip. It rides on the hull of a T-72 main battle tank, 45 tons of steel, a crew of 3, 550 kilometers of range on a full load of fuel, and armor meant to shrug off shell splinters and small arms fire. On its back sits the reason it exists: 24 launch tubes, 220 millimeters across, each holding a thermobaric rocket that weighs about 170 kilograms. Fired together, all 24 empty in under 15 seconds and blanket an area the size of several football fields. Fuel thrown into the air and lit into a wall of flame and a pressure wave that flattens field fortifications and collapses dugouts. It is a weapon for erasing trench lines and tree lines whole. And on this day, it had fired exactly one rocket, a ranging round, or all it dared before it began to pull back, because reloading the other 23 takes the better part of half an hour and a second vehicle it did not have alongside it. By the standard of anything else on that road, it is nearly indestructible from the ground. From above, it is a box on a road. The crew that answered were Phoenix, a Ukrainian border guard unit that flies nothing but drones. When the rocket fired, their scout turned toward it before the plume had finished rising. A Phoenix Scout is an unarmed camera drone. Its only weapon is its lens, flying a slow circle a few hundred meters up, and a lens was all this needed. The smoke and dust off a 220mm launch hang in the air for several seconds. Long enough. The Scout found the box-shaped silhouette rolling back off the firing point and did not let go. But the launcher was not moving unprotected. Other vehicles were on the road with it, armor and a self-propelled gun among them, and their crews could put fire up at a low, slow drone. That set the order of work, and it was the opposite of the instinct. Go straight for the launcher, and those guns would chew the strike drones apart before they could finish a target the size of a TOS. So the guns had to go first. The drones that answered are the opposite kind of machine. 3 of them lifted off from a position 8 kilometers back, each a first-person view drone, a racing quadcopter barely 30 centimeters across with a warhead bolted to its nose. No autopilot, no seeker head, just a pilot on the ground watching a live feed and flying by hand. Each weighs a few kilograms, carries a charge of up to 1.5 kilograms, sprints at more than 100 kilometers an hour, and costs around $500. Cheap enough to spend 3 of them stripping a launcher's escort and never feel the loss. And these carried something new, a hair-thin fiber optic cable, thinner than a fishing line, spooling out behind them for up to 10 kilometers, feeding the video down a strand of glass instead of a radio link. Fiber is slower to fly, and it can snag on whatever it crosses. It also cannot be jammed, cannot be picked up by the scanners that hunt for a control signal, and does not care how much noise the enemy pours into the air. At roughly 90 kilometers an hour, the 3 closed the 8 kilometers from their launch point in a little over 5 minutes. And as they came, the Russians did exactly what they were trained to do. They turned on the jammer. On one of the vehicles rode a jammer, a few hundred watts of transmitter sweeping the 2 to 6 gigahertz bands that every radio-controlled FPV in this war uses to reach its pilot. A wall of noise built to cut that link and drop the drone out of the air. It worked perfectly, and it changed nothing, because the drones closing on the road were not listening on those frequencies. They were not listening on radio at all. The jammer poured its noise into an empty band, while the 3 drones it could not touch picked their targets. The first went for the self-propelled gun. As it tipped into the dive, its fiber snagged on something at the roadside and dragged. The picture jerked, the drone yawed, and for half a second it hung sideways above the gun. Then the line pulled free and it fell where it had been aimed. The Russians were shooting by eye now, and the second drone came apart under machine gun fire short of its target. 1 FPV spent for the price of getting close. The last of the 3 put its warhead into the armored vehicle. With the vehicles that had been firing at them knocked out, the drones could turn to the launcher itself, and the launcher was already running. It had one chance: a line of trees 400 meters up the road. Reach them, and the scout overhead would lose it under the branches. But a 45-ton launcher on churned mud under fire does not make it 60-kilometer-an-hour road speed. It crawls at 10 to 25, and 400 meters was the better part of 90 seconds. The next wave was already inbound. 3 more drones, 60 seconds out. 90 against 60. The launcher was going to lose the race by half a minute, and it never got that far. The first of the 3 did not go for the launcher. It went for the road. A supply truck sat at the bend the launcher had to pass, 9 men aboard. The gun crews were still firing up at anything low and small, and a machine gun caught the drone at 300 meters, tracer walking across its path. Inside 300 meters, a drone at attack speed has 9 to 12 seconds to live or die, and the gunner, tracking a target the size of a dinner plate against a bright sky, had fewer than that. The drone dropped under the line of fire, hugged the road, and put its warhead into the truck. The truck went up across the bend. 9 men, and the only lane the launcher had left, gone in the same fireball. The road ahead was a wall of flame and a dead vehicle, and the launcher, barely halfway to the trees, stopped. It had lost the race with room to spare. That left 2 drones. The next one came down onto the rear deck. Not the front, not the sloped glacis a T-72 chassis was built to survive. The engine bay and the tracks, the flat top surfaces the design protects least from above. The launcher lurched, through a track, and sat still. The last one went for the box. 24 tubes and 23 rockets it had never got to fire. The warhead punched into the launcher, and the launcher did the rest. The weapon, built to throw a cloud of fire, threw it one final time, into itself. What had been the most dangerous vehicle on this stretch of front became the brightest fire on the road. For a moment, nothing moved but the smoke. The TOS-1A was gone, and with it a self-propelled gun, the other vehicles that had shared the road, and the truck burning across the bend. A launcher valued past $10 million, taken with 6 drones that cost, together, less than $3,000, less than the price of a single one of the rockets still sitting in its tubes. It did not die because it was outgunned. It died because of a number stamped into its design: 6 kilometers. A weapon that has to close inside 6 kilometers to do its work has to drive inside the reach of every drone on the line. And once it was there, its defenses came to nothing. The armor that shrugs off small arms did nothing against a warhead dropping onto the engine deck. The jammer that should have blinded the drones met drones with no radio to blind. The one rocket it fired to end a trench was the flash that told a camera exactly where to look. Somewhere behind the Huliaipole line, there is another launcher. It has the same range. It will have to come the same distance. The flash that marks the trench will mark the launcher too.